The Hunter is an often overlooked Ranger subclass, and that's probably because it's just a little bit undertuned compared to the newer subclasses, which is normal. Power creep totally happens. But I think the Hunter has a lot of cool synergies that often go unexplored, and I want to explore them with this build. So I bring to you the Hunter's Dance. In order to pull this build off, I went Goliath. As for our stats, dexterity is our by and large primary, then we have constitution as our secondary, and wisdom as our tertiary. So let's start off with our first synergy. Hunters actually make excellent dual wielders. Well, at level 3, we get Colossus Slayer. Colossus Slayer allows us to do an extra d8 of damage if the enemy has been damaged. So by having that extra attack, we get more opportunities to make sure that we proc that d8. For example, what if we go first? We win initiative, we have high dexterity, it's not unlikely. So when we hit an enemy, if we're not a dual wielder, there's no way we can do that d8 of damage. But as a dual wielder, we now have an opportunity to follow up with our second attack to get that damage off. This continues though, even once we hit level 5, now we have 3 opportunities to both hit and proc that damage. So it just increases the consistency of Colossus Slayer, and I like that. The next synergy I want to talk about is how Goliath plus multi-attack defense have some pretty cool synergies. So Goliath has the reaction where you can reduce damage that you take. On multi-attack defense, after you take a hit, you get +4 to your AC. So for example, if we're being attacked by someone with multi-attack and they attack us 3 times, the first attack hits us, we can use our Goliath reaction to reduce that damage, and on the next 2 attacks we have +4 AC, making it far less likely that we're going to be hit. And so we end up being a much tankier version of a ranger than normal. So I kind of like how this all comes together to show us this frontline, dual wielding, dancing with solid defense Goliath, and it kind of gives more of a skilled, tanky, but still agile vibe, which I think is pretty cool. Now we could really lean into the tanky side. Once we get to level 4 or level 8 and we're getting our ASI, we can trade out our fighting style for defensive fighting style or dueling fighting style and pick up a shield. So if we were to go the maximum amount of defense, we could take a shield with the defensive fighting style, getting us to a total of 20 AC, and then once we proc our multi-attack defense, we come to 24 AC. That's a great AC. However, for me, with this particular build, I still wanted to keep both the offense and the flavor of dual wielding, so for me, it's going to be topping out at 21 AC. Now, multi-attack defense only works when we're fighting melee enemies. So our weakness is ranged enemies or spellcasters, right? Well, that's where our spells come in. Fog Cloud is an absolutely fantastic spell, completely underrated. It ends combats, it's a fantastic control option, huge range. So if they have a line of archers, you can just put a Fog Cloud between them and you or right on top of them, and now they have to spend turns scattering around, and it's even more effective if you upcast it. But if you're in closed quarters, you can even just funnel them towards you, or they're useless. Fog Cloud is an incredible option for dealing with archers. Well, how about spellcasters? Well, spellcasters don't love Fog Cloud either, but they also really don't like our Ensnaring Strike. Ensnaring Strike is going to target only one of those spellcasters, but it's going to be a strength save followed by strength checks, so it's going to be very sticky on them. They have to use their action to attempt a strength check to get away. Not many mages are going to be able to do that. You might say Ensnaring Strike is bad against large and greater creatures, which is true, but most mages aren't, even liches. This is actually an effective strategy against a lich. A lich would probably have to counterspell this or use a legendary resistance. It's that good. It's that debilitating to the lich. And if it can do that to a lich, it can basically do any single mage down the line. Now you might say, well, I'm just going to Misty Step out of Ensnaring Strike, but it doesn't actually work that way. I can understand why people think that, because it's like, okay, I'm wrapped up in vines, so I can teleport outside of the vines, but not rules as written. Rules as written, it's a condition. You have the restrained condition. It's not like grappling where if you get away from the enemy, it just ends. No, you're restrained. It's similar to being poisoned. It's not like if you teleported, you wouldn't be poisoned. If you teleport, you're still restrained. Now that's as written. I understand not all the DMs are going to run it that way, but let's be honest, Misty Step is super, super powerful, and so nerfing it a little bit and keeping that condition going isn't a bad idea, my opinion. But with that aside, we now have an option for our mage enemies as well. So we're covering our weaknesses with our spells, and we're trying to set up situations where we're going toe-to-toe with the enemy. I think that's a really cool playstyle. And of course, if there's different combats where we don't need these specific counters, we still have Hunter's Mark, which has extra synergy with our 2-weapon fighting, because we can do that extra attack and get that extra d6 of damage. Nice. Or we can do fantastic spells like Entangle. Other options include Summon Beast once we get our 2nd level spells, and Summon Fae once we get our 3rd level spells. So this isn't a super complicated build, but I actually really like it. It feels like we're taking something that is generally seen as underpowered, and we're just using it to its best advantage and coming out with something that feels really clean to me. But that's just my opinion, and I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. If you want to show support to the channel as well as get some dope benefits, consider checking out our Patreon. But with that, my friends, I hope you have yourselves an incredible day, and I'll catch you on the next one. See you then.